Good morning. Welcome to Xangati's webinar on how to gain business advantage using Xangati's products. I appreciate everybody showing up for the webinar. I'm sure everyone was up late yesterday watching the final game of the World Series. Certainly, Xangati is here on the West Coast, so we're happy with the results. I myself grew up in New Jersey and I've been a long-suffering New York Mets fan, so I can only appreciate the win for the game. But anyway, today's webinar, we're going to talk about a little bit about the challenges in the changing IT environment and how it's impacting business and how we can drive some business advantage, and then talk about how Xangati fits in it with our new application-aware infrastructure intelligence offerings as part of our performance management suite of products, and then show a little demonstration. At the end, we'll take questions and answers in the chat box, and I'll answer those at the end of the presentation. So a little bit about Xangati. We've been around since 2007, and we recently got a big round of funding about a year ago, so we're very well capitalized by way of the company. We have a strong technology, and most of our technology has 7 patents associated with it, so it's very innovative and strong technology that's already deployed in well over 300 different customer deployments. We partner with a major ecosystem, the likely players that you would expect given our focus on application, server, and desktop virtualization, including people like Cisco, Citrix, VMware, Dell, and we have a network of value-added resellers to support our customers throughout the world. And we have our own 7x24, 365 support organization to provide enterprise class level support as needed. Xangati itself started as a real-time network performance management company, and in 2007 we realized that in order to really manage a network, you needed to do real-time, but you needed to do that real-time at scale. So from that real-time to scale, we were able to diagnose very difficult network problems that you might encounter, and that's still a core part of what our product does today. In 2010, we added virtualization performance management. So we added the ability to do server virtualization as well as follow-on desktop virtualization and understand how your virtualized environment combined with your network was impacting the performance in the system. As we started to talk to our customers, and about 50% were server virtualization, 50% were VDI virtualization, we found that our VDI customers were saying the key is how do I tie the end user experience back to the performance of my infrastructure? And it dawned on us that that is a real value. So this year we've been working to bring the next evolution of our offering, layering on top of the virtualized performance management, what we call application-aware infrastructure intelligence. How do we tie the performance of the application back to the infrastructure, but not just for monitoring purposes, but also to analyze and provide recommended remediation, to do it intelligently. So what are you facing today is, how do I provide the superior user experience? And those end users can be your end user customers, they could be the knowledge workers that service those customers, or even ordinary employees that sit within your company. And this is being done in really a changed environment where we're moving from the controlled client-server kind of environment to a more of a cloud environment where many of the applications are run in the cloud and displayed to thin clients, whether they're mobile devices, tablets, virtual desktops, even Internet of Things kind of thing, applications. And how do I consistently deliver those applications from the cloud to those devices across various different types of networks. It could be your internal local area network, it could be the wireless network, it could be the internet, and how do I determine the end user experience? And so what application awareness to us is tying that end user experience back to all of the IT infrastructure components that are delivering it, from the device through the cloud, through the networks in your infrastructure, to the virtualization environment, the servers, the storage network. Monitor, analyze, and remediate across the entire IT infrastructure, tying it back to your application delivery to ensure the end user experience. I'm sure as you sit back and you think about what is business advantage and what do I gain, you hear these things all the time. Hey, I want to leverage the most of my VMs on my hardware investment. I want to get more VMs on a single server, on a single core, so as to save money. Second thing is, I want my VDI infrastructure to scale for growth. Many VDI deployments work very well in the pilot stage and start to have problems as you move forward, and knowledge workers become upset. You know, some VDI deployments fail, and then they're like, we're going back to buying laptops. The other is ensuring that the application performance meets their SLAs, and there's really two things about that. One is, how do I develop the most proper app, the correct app, and code that app properly? And that's the realm of application performance management solutions, like people like AppDynamics, New Relic, and others. And then there's the second, how do I take that application and deliver it through the infrastructure effectively to meet the SLAs that I have, and that is the realm of application-aware infrastructure intelligence. In addition to these proactive things that drive business agility, that ensure application SLAs, there's issues associated with how do I diagnose when I have problems. Like, my VDI has problems at 2 o'clock every day, and my end users complain in this specific hospital. I just don't know what's causing it. How do I solve it? How do I resolve those performance contentions? And the knowledge workers that are providing services in that hospital spent more time trying to figure out how to log into the system than providing actual customer care, and we get less patients through the system, and it causes less money to come into the hospital accordingly. Those are the types of things that when solved, you gain business advantage. The other thing is as I said, there's a certain set of applications that are mission critical that drive revenue. The doctors are your knowledge workers that drive revenue. The customer support reps on the phone that are cross-selling in a bank are driving revenue. The lawyers in their billable hours in your legal firm are driving revenue. And you want to look at those specific workloads, the things that are impacting those doctors, those lawyers, those customer support reps, and build a custom view for that so that you can ensure that their application SLAs are working well. And lastly, you have performance contention problems, and you want to solve that. And one of the ways you try to solve that is by over-provisioning. And by over-provisioning, you avoid performance contentions of different applications trying to target the same server, different clients, overloading a given VDI server, et cetera, How do I resolve that and solve it? Because the real thing you want to achieve is I want the most leverage of my virtualized infrastructure, yet avoid performance contentions that impact SLAs. And so we need to look at how do I build in this new environment a way to monitor, analyze, and remediate to solve these problems to allow you to unleash business agility through the IT organization. Ensure that your application SLAs get met to make intelligent investment decisions. Many clients have said to us, my big problem is I don't really know what hardware investment to make to solve my performance contention. I get a $1 million bid from my networking vendor, a $1 million bid from my storage vendor, a $1 million bid from my CPU vendor, and I don't know which one to bet on. And if I bet on the wrong one and send the proposal up to my boss, it could be a career-limiting decision. We help you find what is the right intelligent investment to unlock your IT infrastructure, as well as to triage everything in a real-time manner so that you can maintain the operations going and not do postmortems after the fact. So when you're looking at your virtualized deployment environment, there's really 3 different areas you need to look at. First is assessment. How do I assess what physical volumes I can move to virtual volumes? How do I assess which things will make the most impact? Which environments to roll out first? How do I roll it? What are my scaling plans? Second then is a planning, where you do the what-if analysis. Figure out where I'm going to be 3 years from now, project, based on simulations and assumptions where I'm going, and then lastly is how do I ensure that I'm getting there? How do I ensure that my SLAs are being met? How do I monitor and analyze that on an ongoing basis? And then when I have a problem, how do I triage that problem and fix it in real time as opposed to after the fact? Typically, many virtual environments, when you put something virtually new in and there's a problem, it's like all fingers point to the virtualization administrator or the new application that's put in place. And nowadays, more fingers get pointed at the poor virtualization administrator than get pointed at Jennifer Lawrence on the red carpet, so to speak. So you need tools to go across all of those different environments to solve each individual point. And where Xangati fits very much so is the insurance and feeding information back into your planning process. So what are the best practices in order to unlock the agility that you have in your infrastructure to have true business impact? Because when you have business impact, it's easier to justify new investments in the infrastructure with your CIO, with your line of business people. And the first best practice is you need to visualize in real time with high fidelity. Many of the problems that happen in the infrastructure that impact the SLAs or cause dissatisfaction in end users happen in very short amounts of time, on the order of seconds or minutes. And many tools and many reports, the fidelity and the time is much too longer. It ends up being on the order of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and by that time the transitory problems are gone. So when you look at the first best practices, how do I get that information in real time, and how do I get it in very high fidelity? And that includes not only just monitoring that information, but then analyzing that information to look at the alerting and get real alerts, contention analysis and analytics on figuring out where there are problems between silos and within silos, determining recommendations, and providing remediation options. And so the first is looking those in real time with a high fidelity. That's best practice number 1. The second is you need to understand the end-to-end behavior piecewise. Now that's kind of a weird statement, and it's made up really of 3 different parts. One is end-to-end, second is behavior, and third is piecewise. So end-to-end really is around the fact that as you're delivering these applications and services across the internet to mobile devices in a virtual app environment or a web app environment or a virtual desktop environment, you need to understand what's going on from the users on the clients through all the networks and all the protocols that are in the network to how things are processed on the hosts and then into your virtual environment, both the CPU, storage, servers, and networks. So here in this graphic, we have an example of end-to-end behavior piecewise based on virtual desktops. And your end user clients will say the connection is slow, I'm keep on losing the connection, I'm having problems logging into my apps, I have problems accessing files, copying files, it's slow, it doesn't work. There are many places along the end-to-end infrastructure that can cause those problems. So it's not just good enough to understand what's happening on the client with one tool, what's happening in the network with another tool, what's happening on the Zen desktop or View servers on a third tool, and what's happening in the virtual infrastructure like the storage devices with the fourth tool. You need to understand it end to end, but you need to be able to understand it each piece along the way, because we need to understand that behavior, and that behavior is not just consumptive behavior, that the IOPS on this data store is X and it's too high. You need to understand the interactions between the Zen desktop servers and that data store. Is it overloading it? Because that consumption may be fine because it's not introducing contention. And so you have to understand that behavior and the interactions between those behaviors. The third is to look at best practices. Number 3 is combining best practice alerting with self-learned alerting. And so we roll up, for instance, dozens of metrics into a health index, and then we provide it on a live and continuous basis, second-by-second basis. So we measure against 2 different alerts, the best practice alerts that are set by industry standards and self-learned alerts. And you can modify the best practices alerts as you see fit. The self-learned alert is by looking at what's happening in your environment and modeling that on a second-by-second basis so that we know of all the elements in your infrastructure, what is it like on a Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m.? What is it like on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m.? And then your alerting needs to combine both of those so that you can say that a green is really a green, a yellow is really a yellow, and a red is really a red. Because if you have too many spurious alerts, then they get ignored. And if they get ignored, SLAs get missed, and it has impact on end users and revenue. And so the self-learned alerting is very important in this regard because it allows you to understand your given environment as it's today. While it may be in the best practices, you need to have a tighter understanding. You need to understand that I have higher SLAs than the best practice in the industry. Self-learning alert is also important because that's where you see significant deviations very quickly. If suddenly one client is using the network significantly more than it did in the past, you can say there's something wrong going on here. Did somebody hack into that client? Is there a virus going on there? There's things that happen with self-learning alert that's important. So you need to apply both of those, and that's best practice number 3. Best practice number 4 is really to understand the toxic cross-silo interactions to resolve resource contentions. The biggest problem as you scale in a virtualized environment is that you have more and more elements sharing the infrastructure, and the interaction of those elements are what cause resource contention and cause performance storms to occur that impact the end user experience. And so it's not just good enough to look at the consumptive information. You need to look at the interactions between the various items in the silo. How is the end user clients dealing with the desktop server? Are there too many desktops on a single desktop server? Do we have the most popular applications sitting in one server in my virtual app environment, and I should be spreading it out? Is my high performance applications running on an important data store, and then the backup app spins up and uses that same data store and brings the performance down? Those toxic interactions is what causes problems in the infrastructure, And sometimes they can be very transitory and hard to diagnose. And to do that at scale in real time becomes equally difficult because the interaction data, the data and the correlation between different things in the environment is typically 10 times the amount of data as the consumptive data of the various elements. So you're going to get 10 times the number of interactions that need to be gathered, analyzed, and remediated as appropriate. And then you need to empower end users. So, for instance, we have a product called Visual Trouble Ticket that allows end users to submit problems. And when they submit the problems, what happens is we'll record the information on their specific activity so that later on you can go back and analyze it for troubleshooting purposes. We've all had the same experience of the cable didn't work, the cable guy shows up, and everything's okay, right? Same thing here, you know, someone 2 hours later says, hey, I couldn't log in at 10 a.m. this morning, and you go and everything looks fine, and you've missed the opportunity to diagnose the problem. So the ability to empower end users to submit tickets, but have those tickets trigger the saving of the information of their actual activity is important, because now you've tied a end user dissatisfaction back to the infrastructure, and you can quickly diagnose what's going on. And you can see if a number of end users come at the same time, the number of users come at the same time, you can correlate those activities. So if you look at the end-to-end performance assurance, it really comes down to three major things. One is, how do you roll everything up into a health index to quickly understand what's going on, yet grab that information on a live and continuous basis that you could then drill down on, and then provide the ability to have a recording capability so that when there's an event occurring, there are problems, and those problems are solved, and you can go back and re-record it. And when we get to the demonstration portion of the webinar, I'll show all of those different things. But I want to give you kind of an upper-level view of the three major things that are important when you're looking at your performance management. So what does Xangati do? How does Xangati do this? There's really 5 layers to the Xangati solution. The first is the real-time multi-silo agentless data collection engine. So that's a big mouthful, but basically what that means is on a live and continuous basis, we'll go out to various parts of your infrastructure, grab that information in real time, whether it's flow information from your network using NetFlow in the case of switches, AppFlow in the case of the NetScaler application delivery controller, or polling information from your hypervisors, vSphere, Hyper-V, or polling information from your physical devices like WMI information, as well as grabbing information from various parts of the network like your UCS controller or your NetApp, gathering that information without putting any agents out there. We'll use the information that's provided by the various components, bring it into our architecture. And we can do that because our in-memory architecture is very extensible. We can respond quickly to lots of information coming at different rates and correlate that information into our in-memory architecture. And in fact, that's the next thing. We take all that real-time information, we discover what everything is, map it, collate it, so that we can bring the different information and make it all in one single coherent timeline. So you can see the information from all of those tools at any given point in time on a second-by-second basis. Then we take and we do this advanced inter-silo, intra-silo performance profiling engine. So we take that information and not only just then quickly display it and say you're on your own, we analyze it, we profile it against the best practices that are put in, as well as the self-learned profiles. And where do we get that self-learned profile information? We get it from all the information that comes in. So we'll store all that information that we gather on a second-by-second basis, and then after an hour goes by, we summarize it down into 2-minute intervals, and we store it in our database. And we use that to look at any given element in the infrastructure and understand, is that component moving out of what it has normally done in the past. So it could be IOPS in case of a data store, it could be network bandwidth in the case of a client, it could be CPU usage in the case of a VM on a hypervisor. There's lots of different information, and we can understand what is the behavior. Is it out of ordinary from what the behavior was in the past? The third part is this profiling engine allows you to look at the end-to-end performance profile. So Xangati has incorporated from all of our clients the lessons we've learned about how performance contention storms occur and how the interactions occur in networks, in virtualized environments, and in app delivery environments. And we've put that into the IP of our profiling engine. So we don't only look at individual components and see, are they out of their thresholds? We look at the end-to-end performance profile, and that gives us the ability to understand this contention storm that you've been kind of ignoring because it's been a light gray contention storm is getting worse and worse and worse over time because we can analyze those end-to-end performance based on those profiles. As we analyze the information and detect your storms, we provide analysis and remediation. So in real time, we provide critical alerts where when an alert occurs, we can say, hey, this is a true real-time issue, a true alert. It's not just a warning, though we do also provide warnings. But we also do two other things. We do causal storm analysis. We'll look and say, here is a storm occurring. We have a number of virtual app clients in a XenApp environment, and the performance of their streaming applications to their Citrix receivers is bad, this whole core group. And then we can go back and see that the cause was this one specific application server, and that this application server is overwhelmed and you need to spread out the load more. And we'll do that analysis, and then we'll provide the specific remediation recommendation. And it could be anything from a CPU contention problem, it could be a data store contention problem, it could be a networking problem. We'll look at the entire environment and try to figure out what is the problem. And then display it based on a set of contextual streaming dashboards. So we have dashboards for your IT executive. We have dashboards that provide the information based on, do you care about server virtualization, desktop virtualization, virtual apps, web applications, network. You can even customize the dashboard using My Dashboard to only look at a subset of information that's relevant to what you need to manage. And we have a special dashboard called Storm Tracker that allows you to do the storm detection and remediation. While we gather information across the entire infrastructure, it is shown in the context that is usable by the various people that would consume that information. And it's all done on a real-time basis. And so, people throw around real-time a lot, but the real-time means on a second-by-second basis. So we gather that information, and then we will display it on a second-by-second basis. So you will see, with what is going on in your infrastructure at any given second, and we'll show that in the demonstration. So this second-by-second data collection, we'll grab information from across the entire environment, whether it's your web servers, your virtual app servers, such as your XenApp environment, your VDI servers like VMware View and XenDesktop, from your VI servers, such as VMware and Hyper-V, as well as the underlying infrastructure. So things like data stores and like your NetApp filer and your Cisco UCS servers and the virtual NICs they have in it, the NetScaler ADCs, will gather all that information from your physical environment, including all of the networking using NetFlow information, and tie it back to the information that is used to manage the delivery of your applications, so as you can understand on a second-by-second basis how your entire infrastructure is running, delivering those applications to those end users and clients. So let me shift gears here and quickly show some of the dashboards that we have for the demonstration. I am actually going to start with the VDI dashboard because it shows the most here. So the dashboard is made up of a number of different elements. This first is the VDI scoreboard, and so you'll see on the top, if we go across, we have the performance index, the availability index, and the relative capacity index. And so these three indices give you a quick snapshot of what's going on in your infrastructure. So a little definition, the performance index is how well is the environment performing? Is it within the thresholds that we've seen in the past? Are we seeing performance alerts where things are moving out of the threshold that we expect to see? And so you can see quickly on a red, yellow, green basis, where do I have problems? The availability index is very simple. Has it been up or is it down? Green means it's up. Yellow means I've had problems. Red means I have a significant problem. From an availability, is it up or is it down? The relative capacity index is used to provide something that's kind of unique. So capacity is utilization is how much am I using this product? How much of its assigned capability am I using? Now, if I have high capacity utilization, that could be good or bad. It's good in that, as we said again in the beginning, to gain business advantage, we want to leverage the infrastructure as much as possible. So this is very important for our MSP clients who are trying to leverage infrastructures in a multi-tenant environment and share infrastructures. How do I get the most leverage I can out of my infrastructure, but not introduce performance storms? If I introduce performance issues and impact to SLA, I'm over-leveraging that infrastructure, and that can be very detrimental to the business. And so what relative capacity index does is it looks at the capacity utilization, but tempers it on, is it impacting the performance? And if it is, this index gets worse. And so you can think of capacity utilization like temperature and relative capacity index like wind chill. It's like, what is the reality? What is the impact of the capacity utilization on my performance? And so down the side here, you can see a number of different things in the element. So in the VDI dashboard, the first few of these are all associated with the VDI. So the information on the pools, the users, the desktops, the clients. The next set here, this information provides information on how is your infrastructure running, how is the VDI infrastructure running by way of networking, hosts, data store paths. Now this data store information is how does the virtualized infrastructure see the various data stores out there. So you get latency issues, IOP issues, capacity utilization issues, all from the view of the data store. So that allows us to see many, many data stores, anything that is used by Hyper-V or VMware. In the latest release, we've introduced support for NetApp. And that specialized support for NetApp actually goes out and interrogates the NetApp storage device, the filer, and gathers information specifically about NetApp and provides that information in storage servers, volumes, and network interface. So that optional module provides you additional information beyond the information you get in the data store that relieves you of having to go to the NetApp solution to grab that information. So we get all the data store information to help you diagnose problems from the data store for all storage devices, and we have an extra value of solutions to go in and drive information on NetApp filers. And that was our first release, and we have a roadmap of other systems in the future. So all of this information rolls up into a performance window, and as you can see, we have dozens of metrics that are out here that we then can roll up into a performance index store. So here, this is the summary view here, so you can see the various items, the desktop pools, and from here we can see the information associated with the top desktop pools by usage and top users by CPU usage, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives you the top end kind of information so you can quickly diagnose what's going on and who's using what, et cetera, et cetera. If you need then to drill down into more detailed information, you go to our full view, and then our full view provides a complete set of detailed information from the pools, the desktop counts, et cetera, et cetera. So from a single view, you can see all of this information. And as you can see down here, it's happening on a live and continuous basis. We're correlating all that information second by second, and you're seeing things with only a 1-minute delay as we bring everything together. This little bar here, like I said, is a DVR kind of functionality, so you can actually go and move back and forth in the system and see what's going on at any given time. Going back an hour on a live and continuous basis, and then you can actually record all this information. So recording is done really in 3 different ways. One is this little record button here. If you click on this record button, it brings up a window that allows you to start recording immediately or schedule a recording so that you can gather that information at any given time. So suppose an end user says, hey, I have a problem. My every 2 p.m. every day, my VDI desktop is dog slow. Well, you can set a recording so that you can see exactly what's happening at that 2 o'clock. Or you can schedule a recording so that after you've done some remediation action to see if it was effective. Even some of our clients know in advance that something's going to happen that's going to stress their IT infrastructure. And I'm thinking in the case of one of our retail clients, and they say, every Friday there's a sale. I want to schedule a recording during the critical time to see how well my infrastructure functioned during that specific time. But you don't only have to be on top of this and say, oh, look, it looks like there's a problem. I'm going to take a recording. If we have an event or an alert happen, the system will automatically record all that information associated with that alert so that you can then go back later and check it out. So if you come here, you can see I have an alert that was a data store write latency problem on this VM. If I double-click this, what I'm doing now is my system is going to the colo on going to the server application and grabbing that recording. So actually what we're seeing now is not live. It is the recording of what happened at that given time when we had a data store contention. It tells me which data stores were involved. It shows me the latency, the read latency, so I can diagnose what was the issue and figure out what was the problem on why those particular VMs had a problem at that time. And so the recording information is quite valuable. The other thing with the recording information is, as I said, when a user provides a visual trouble ticket, we'll automatically record all the information associated with that specific user's IP address. So that's kind of the performance element of the product. If you come and we look, the web app dashboard is very similar to that. So the web app dashboard, instead of having it based on the VDI, all that same information is gathered, but it's focused on the web e-commerce infrastructure. So say you have a big e-commerce infrastructure and you want to track the performance of various URLs and various clients and web servers and HTTP servers. We'll gather that information from the NetScaler ADC. We'll gather the downstream information from all the web clients that are logging into the NetScaler ADC, and as the NetScaler is doing the load balancing, we'll grab that information and tie that back to whatever URLs are running, as well as all the information associated with the host, the data stores, the paths, et cetera, that are associated with the web infrastructure. So that is our web dashboard. And then lastly, we have the virtual, I went to the VDI. Last is the virtual app scoreboard dashboard. And what the virtual app dashboard does is it grabs information on your Citrix Zen app environment and gathers information from what app users, apps, app servers, app delivery groups, etc. And so what you can see here is, here's my top application users. I can see what applications are running, what are the most active applications. I can see what app servers are available, the various clients, and the delivery group. And then I can go and say, okay, what is Brock doing? And by double-clicking on Brock, I can now go in and see all the information associated with Brock, not only on the consumptive information, but we'll go grab the HDX information from the NetScaler and provide information on round-trip time, latency issues, jitter issues, processing issues, both downstream from the NetScaler to the Citrix receiver, and then upstream from the NetScaler to the Zen app broker. The same sort of HDX information also exists in the VDI dashboard in the case where you have Zen desktop clients. So all this information gives you a snapshot of what's going on in the environment. I can also go and find contention storms. So this here is Storm Tracker. And what Storm Tracker does is it looks at your environment and determines where you have contention storms. So if it's white, it's okay. If it's got a grayish color like this one here, it means that I have a problem. And here I have a data store contention going on with my NetApp filer. So if I click on that, I can get information on that data store contention, and I can go and analyze that information. So the storm is in progress, so the results could be different. And then I can go get recommendations, or I can play back the given storm. So here I'm playing back the storm, and I can go and I can take a look. It's going and grabbing the information from the colo, and then it'll play back that information in the recording. So from this information, it allows me to then go and understand what's happening in the contention. So you see here in this recording, everything is going well, but I can go forward, and then over time you'll start to see things get darker and darker and darker. There's the most dark, and then I can go click on this and get the detail of what hosts are being involved and what data stores and et cetera, et cetera. Now I'm in the app dashboard, so you can see here that I have a number of different clouds that are white. Those are my app clouds, but I share the same data store with a bunch of other clients that are, in this particular case, web clients that are having problems. So these dotted things are things that are not relevant to me as a app administrator, but because I share the infrastructure with these items, they could potentially cause contention problems that impact my environment. So in this data store, I'm okay, but apparently many of the web clients are having some problems, and that probably means it's not a issue with the controllers with the device, but more like a set of disks or something like that, because it's not impacting me. So it's not a NetApp filer issue. It's a set of drive issue probably. That's my best guess. So this is kind of an overview of what Xangati's products do, and really, when you look at it, how do you derive that business impact and what do we provide? It's really four things. Resolving end-user issues much more quickly, allowing you to use the prescriptive analytics to work harder and smarter versus harder, support the large-scale environments with thousands of metrics on a second-by-second basis, but not only for the consumption, but the interaction of those, and to be able to see the entire infrastructure at a glance, but tie it back to how well your application is running. So that is a lot of information for Thursday morning. I hope it gave you a good overview. We have the ability to put a trial program and put Xangati into your environment so you can see it actual running in your environment. And I'd be happy to take some Q&A at the time if you want. Excuse me. So one of the questions I got is the storage systems only limited to NetApp or others supported like Isilon? So today, we can see all of the storage systems from the view of the VM. So we can see the performance based on how the VM measures those performances. Today, our optional storage module is only NetApp, so we've integrated with NetApp's product and to gain that information. Over time in the roadmap, we'll add additional storage vendors as we see important from the demand in the market. But just because a system like Isilon is not currently supported in the optional storage module does not mean that we don't gain information on how that's impacting the infrastructure. So I'd be more than happy to take any additional questions at this time if we have any more. So one of the other questions is, when you say real time, what is the interval in which the data is collected? And so we use different ways to gather data. We gather data from the net flow information and the app flow information from the network devices. And generally, that data is just sent to us, and we gather that information. They just publish this data and grab it. Other data we get pulling by going to the VMware server or going to the Citrix Zen application delivery controller and grabbing that information on a polling basis. Many provide things on different time intervals. We then take and synchronize that and make sure everything's working, provide it with a 1-minute delay, but then update it on a second-by-second basis. And so we do all the work of collating everything based on the different intervals that information comes to us, and logically put it in place so that you have a clear picture of what's going on. One of the next questions is the roadmap available for download? What I would recommend there is we'll get in contact you, our account teams. They can help you go through the product, see what we can solve today, and then if there's any additional information from a roadmap perspective, they can work with you on an individual case basis. We don't particularly publish our roadmap publicly. What other kind of alerts are there too is another question. Example, email and SMP, etc. So we also support the ability, if there's an alert, for information to be emailed so that you can know that an alert has happened. And we will send out information that can be picked up by frameworks like Service One and others, so that it can be integrated within your service management interface. Any other questions? Well, I think we covered a lot. I urge you to go to the Xangati website. We have a big green form on the bottom of our homepage. If you have additional questions, just put it in there and we will get back to you very quickly. We also have a trial program where you can trial the software in your specific environment, scale to your specific environment. Our technical support team will help you get started, which can, if we have all the appropriate credentials, can be done in a half a day, and you'll see information that's valuable within 24 hours. I appreciate the time that everybody has spent with us, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking with you all in the future. Thank you for your time and your attention. Make it a wonderful day.